The photographer adjusted the lens for the third time. "Just a little closer," he said, gesturing for everyone to tighten the formation. "We want this to feel complete." Complete. That word stayed in the air longer than it should have, because I already knew what was coming. "Wait," my mother-in-law said, raising her hand slightly, her tone calm but precise enough to stop everything instantly. The room shifted, not dramatically, but enough. The kind of shift that happens when someone with quiet authority decides something needs to change. She stepped forward, scanning the group with a practiced eye, not looking at people, assessing them. Positioning, balance, image. And then her gaze landed on me, not by accident, deliberately. "There's a small adjustment," she said. Of course there was. There always was. The photographer paused, lowering the camera slightly, waiting for direction. Because in this house, direction didn't come from professionals. It came from her. "What kind of adjustment?" he asked. She smiled, not unkindly, but not warmly either. "The photo needs to represent the family properly," she said. A few people nodded slightly. Of course they did, because statements like that sound reasonable until you understand what they mean. "And right now," she continued, "it feels a bit off." Off. Another word. Soft. Carefully chosen. Designed to remove without sounding like removal. I didn't move. I didn't react. Because I had already heard this before. Just in different forms. Different words. Same meaning. "You," she said finally, looking directly at me. "Step out for a moment." Silence. Not complete, but enough. Because now, it wasn't implied. It was clear. "I think it'll look better without you in this one," she added. A pause followed, long enough for the weight of it to settle. No one spoke. No one questioned it. Because moments like this don't invite resistance. They reinforce structure. My husband shifted slightly beside me. Not toward me. Away. That was enough, because silence is a decision. "I'll take the next one," I said calmly. Not asking. Not arguing. Just acknowledging. She nodded once, satisfied, because from her perspective, this was handled. The group adjusted, closed the space I left. The photographer lifted the camera again. "Perfect," he said. Of course it was, because now, the image matched the story they wanted to tell. Complete. Without me, I stepped back, not far, just enough to watch, because observation is more useful than reaction. The flash went off. Once, twice, 3 times, capturing a version of reality that didn't include me, exactly the way she wanted it. "You see," she said quietly to someone beside her. "Much cleaner." Cleaner. That word again. Always about the image, never about the truth. I didn't stay long after that. There was no reason to. The moment had already happened. The decision had already been made. And more importantly, the assumption had already been confirmed. I didn't belong in their version of the family. That's what they believed. And belief can be very convincing, until it isn't. The estate was quiet as I walked through it. Large, structured, every detail designed to reflect stability, control, permanence. The kind of place that doesn't just exist, it declares something. Ownership, legacy, power. They believed it belonged to them, or, at least, to her. That was the interesting part, not the exclusion, the assumption behind it, because assumptions are fragile. I paused near the main hallway, looking back once, not at them, not at the photo session, but at the structure itself. Because everything they valued, everything they built their identity around, was standing on something they had never questioned. And that was the part they didn't understand. They didn't notice I left. Not really. From their perspective, the moment had already been completed. The photo taken, the image secured, the version of the family they wanted to present, clean, aligned, controlled, captured exactly the way they needed it to be. And I wasn't part of it. That was enough for them, because presence, in their world, only mattered if it could be seen. What they didn't understand was that visibility has nothing to do with control. I didn't go far, just far enough to let the moment settle, because timing matters. And this wasn't the moment. Not yet. The rest of the afternoon moved the way it always did in that house. Conversations, soft laughter, careful interactions that felt natural only because everyone followed the same unspoken rules. She moved through it all effortlessly, confident, certain, exactly the way someone looks when they believe everything around them belongs to them. And for years, no one had challenged that. Why would they? The estate had always been presented as hers, managed by her, structured around her decisions. Even my husband spoke about it that way, like it was an extension of her authority. No one ever asked where that authority came from, because it had never been necessary. Until now. Dinner was served in the main hall. Long table, perfect arrangement, everything placed exactly where it needed to be. I took my seat without announcement. No one stopped me. No one questioned it, because exclusion for them had already been handled earlier. "You're still here," she said, not looking up immediately, her tone neutral but precise. "I am," I replied. A pause. Small, but noticeable. "You weren't needed for the photo," she added, as if reinforcing something that had already been decided. "I know," I said. Another pause. Longer, because now the conversation wasn't moving the way she expected. "This house represents something," she continued, finally looking at me. "Standards, structure, legacy." I nodded once. "It does," I agreed. That threw her slightly. Not enough to lose control, but enough. "And everyone in it," she added, "should reflect that." Of course they should, from her perspective. "I agree," I said. Silence. Because agreement wasn't the reaction she expected. My father-in-law cleared his throat slightly, shifting the conversation as if to move away from something he couldn't fully place. But she didn't let it go. "You don't seem to understand your position," she said. "I understand it perfectly," I replied. That's when the room changed. Not loudly, not dramatically, but enough. Because now there was resistance. "What position is that?" she asked. I didn't answer immediately. I reached into my bag and placed a folder on the table. Clean, structured, final, the same way everything important should be. "What is this?" she asked. "Clarity," I said. She didn't touch it at first. Neither did anyone else. Because sometimes people hesitate when something doesn't fit their version of reality. "Go ahead," I added. She opened it, slowly, carefully, like the act itself might change what was inside. It didn't. Ownership documents, trust agreements, legal authority, every layer clearly outlined, every assumption quietly dismantled. "This doesn't make sense," she said. "It does," I replied. Another pause, longer this time, because now understanding was starting to replace certainty. "This estate is under my management," she said. "Management isn't ownership," I said calmly. Silence. Heavy. Real. Because now the structure was visible. "That's not possible," she added. "It is," I said. "How?" she asked. I didn't explain everything. I didn't need to. "It was placed into a private trust years ago," I said. "Everything here, this house, the land, the assets, is tied to it." "And that trust?" she asked, her voice quieter now. "Mina ireplid." One word. Enough. The room didn't move, didn't react, because it didn't need to. Everything had already shifted. My husband looked at me for the first time that evening. Not with confusion, not even disbelief, just recognition. like something he had ignored for too long had finally become unavoidable.
You're saying he started.
I'm saying, I said calmly, that everything you think you control depends on me. The words didn't land loudly. They didn't need to. They settled.
Permanent.
Unavoidable. You removed me from the photo. I continued. Not emotional. Not aggressive. Just clear. Another pause. Because now, she understood. Not fully, but enough. You said I didn't belong, I added. Her expression shifted. Not dramatically, but completely. Because now, belief had been replaced by reality. And you were right, I said. Silence. Because she didn't understand.
Not yet.
I don't belong in the picture, I finished. Another pause. Longer. Because now,
she did.
I own the frame. Nothing moved after that. Nothing needed to. Because everything had already changed. She built her world on image, on control, on the belief that she decided who belonged and who didn't. But what she didn't realize was simple. You can't remove someone from the picture when everything in it is already theirs.